Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and we've got another war vid. So this time we're bringing in Valkyrie and Cassie. We have Wags for some pre-fights along the way, but Cassie is going to be doing the main lifting in this war. Starting off with path 1, and then we're going to go into path 9. Again, I didn't know I was going to be making these war vids. We just record them to make sure that nothing goes wrong in the fights, and I figured I'd upload them. That's why I haven't gone through my usual, these are the paths, these are the fights. I will be doing that from next war, I promise. But today we have Adam Warlock and Hulk on section 1 of path 1. Then we have an Absorbing Man and a Thing on path 9. Then we're going to go to the mini bosses and take a Man-Thing on the Regen and Resistance's Futile node. Then we have a Spider Supreme on Aspect of Evolution, a Longshot on Conflictor, and then we end up taking a Mysterio boss, which we weren't supposed to be taking, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So starting off with this Adam. I approached this fight very much similar to how I'd use Tigra here. I dueled a lot for it and made sure I knew the spacing on his special one, but we're just going to treat this as you would with Tigra. I'm going to dash in, heavy charge, misses a special one. The only thing is, Tigra's heavy pushes her a lot further forward than Cassie's does, and that means that you need to be a lot more specific on the timing. If you mistime it and don't do it at the right moment, you're going to end up not connecting and hoping that the AI doesn't retaliate on you while your next heavy hits push you a little further forward. So I'm only going to do it when I'm in the corner, because when I was dueling, that is what felt right. So as I bait out this special one here, I'm going to dash in, charge heavy, and then as soon as I know that the hit is connected, or would have connected, I release my heavy and I'm going to go for it. I don't do this every time. Sometimes I'm dexing so that I can actually go for a combo and just apply the poison. We're watching out for the pod here. It triggers and we don't retaliate. It would have stunned us. He's taunted, so it wouldn't have made much difference, but we don't want to get a combo. And then the last power sting finishes him off. I could have used Valkyrie there, but I ended up going with Cassie because a fellow officer pointed out that the Despair would really help with the regen. That could have gone out of control a little bit. I know Valkyrie could have taken it, but sometimes in those situations it's just about being extra safe. And then speaking of extra safe, read the nodes, because it turns out there is a Vigorous Assault node on this one. So when I go for this first parry, he shrugs it off and goes unblockable, and then we have to deal with that. I go for my L1 here because I want to really guarantee that I get that pierce buff. If he starts going unstoppable because of the tactic, we could be in a really sticky situation where we can't get our pierce buff at all, and I figured I could die in that moment. So we went for the special one just to guarantee ourselves getting that pierce buff. Now we're going to revert our combo to try and get a bulwark. We're going to go back down below 30 and then throw our L2. This does a huge chunk of damage. We get an Incept off. Should have just finished off. Accidentally reparry there. He goes unblockable again, but our combo finishes him off. Even if it hadn't, we had an L1 to finish off the fight with. So a little bit of a dodgy start there for Valkyrie, but she handles it just fine. Moving on to section 2, we've got this Absorbing Man. Cassie is unreal for hazard shift nodes this season. She was unreal before, but now she just heals up like a demon. As soon as you have a few debuffs on the defender, which is either a combo or a little heavy charge, the attack tactic makes you take no damage whatsoever. And the great thing about Cassie is she has such easy access to debuffs that you don't need the defender to be a tactic defender. If you're using someone like Spider-Ham, for example, it would be a little bit RNG based to make sure you get the debuffs up, but Cassie just gets them so easily, and she's immune to a lot of the hazard shift debuffs anyway in poison and shock, so she's just an all-around great option for it. So we're going for our normal Cassie fight, we're layering up the stings, going for our L1 when we can. When we get some pin particles, we're going to end with a light combo, and then we're going to apply that poison, which reduces the falling off of all of those debuffs. Doesn't affect the tactic ones, but that's fine, they are so easy to get anyway. But yeah, she is fantastic for Absorbing Man because she doesn't care about any of his resistances. The stings are direct damage, so it doesn't matter what form he's in. Usually it'll be an L1 because you're baiting out those L1s. You do have to be a little bit worried about his critting through block, but firstly, Cassie doesn't block a lot, and secondly, the taunt will reduce a lot of that damage. It's just something to watch out for, but the easy access to a heavy to take him out of his form is great as well. All the debuffs reduces the regen that he does get, if he does ever get it, and yeah, she's just a really, really good option for him. Next up, you guys have all seen me do a Valkyrie versus thing on Hazard Shift a ton. I don't think there's much use going massively into the details of it. I'm just doing my normal, back dash, let him dash back myself, and then go in to make sure he is actually blocking. It's a really, really straightforward fight. It's all about managing your space. I guess sometimes I dash back a little bit further than it looks like I need to, because Thing's AI loves throwing those heavies if you're next to him, and they take up a lot of space on the map, so you'll see me sometimes dash back a little bit further than it looks like I need to. Again, we're just building up to our L2. If you want these fights to go faster, you can go for a Power Start 1. I've never really felt the need to, but if it's a fight you're really worried about, you can. And the combos take him almost the whole way down. We finish him off with the L2. And next up, we're going to go for this man thing. We have to deal with a personal space regen, and the resistance is futile node, so he's going to gain some power over time. However, our withers are really going to shut that down. The one thing that I kind of underestimated a little bit here was the extra regen node, so the recovering 100% more health from any healing effects. That actually comes into play. Our despair can only reduce it by so much, and we do have a poison reducing it by a further 30%. However, it ends up with him healing, just off the top of my head, I think it's about 70% of the original healing that he would have, and messing up that special one doesn't really help. It doesn't really matter though, Man-Thing doesn't hit very hard. However, throughout the fight, because we're staying so close to him, those regens really start to stack up and do some sizable, it slows us down a pretty decent chunk. But notice, slows down, not stops. Cassie just has so much damage that even we end up getting, 13 or 14 of those regens up, and he heals about 2k per tick. But Cassie just managed to get through it, and we don't even fully ramp her in this fight, I don't think. So, we have the reach. It wasn't ever a worry that I was going to time out. I was just wondering why it was taking so long, and then I was seeing all this regen come through, and I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shock. But, it's a very, very safe fight. We can keep the poisons up, we can keep the stings up, and he's going to go down eventually. If he did start regenning more than we can do, which I don't think is possible with how much damage Cassie can get once she's max ramp, I'd probably end up backing off a little bit and letting the regens fall off. But yeah, the fight went fine in the end. And next up we have this Spider-Man Supreme on Aspect of Evolution and Unblockable Special 2. So I do know how to dex his Special 2, which makes this fight a lot less dangerous. I'm going to be trying to bait his special ones though. The taunt will go a long way to making that a lot easier. I can dex the special one, but most of the time I just don't really bother. I've usually got the taunt up, and even if I don't, it doesn't do a ton of damage anyway. Aside from that, it's a pretty normal just Spider-Man Supreme. Cassie's buff immune, so we can't get those Spider Seal buffs on us, which make us miss. That takes out that part of his kit completely. We're just going to be trying to layer up the stings a little bit, and Spidey has so little health that one combo takes 7% of his health away. So we go in for one of our heavy charges, take off another chunk. I could have done a little bit more to stack on more of those stings. I don't think we really go that hard for them, but it doesn't really matter. He goes down so quickly anyway. And yeah, like I said, we're going to block that just for some safety. Go back in, charge our heavy again to stack on some more stings. We're going to dex this one, and then we're going to try and get our poison activated. If I go in for a combo with Cassie and finish off with a light ending combo and they don't have a bar of power, I like to follow that up with a heavy if I do have enough fuel. It feels like the AI is often going to retaliate once that happens, and it means you can get an opening without needing to parry. Then he's on 1%, so we just dash back, let him dash in, and being a little bit fancy, go for a heavy charge to finish him off. Very safe fight. I can't see much going wrong there, unless he gets to a special 2 and won't throw it and throws it while you don't have a taunt up. So next up we have this Longshot. So I was a little worried about this one because Longshot is a menace and Cassie is not good for Conflictor. When her opponent throws a special, it doesn't just refresh the power stings, it actually reapplies them. And that means that if they throw a special when the Conflictor happens, you lose all of your stings because it treats them as one entity and it takes them all away. So normally I would never go for a Conflictor fight with Cassie. However, you have such easy access to debuffs in this tactic because of all of those withers that you can try and time it. You see here, I'm not going to let him throw a special because the Conflictor was off cooldown. But we just let him throw a special now because we've just triggered it with the withers. You can time it so that he never throws a special while the Conflictor is off cooldown. And you also don't really want to apply the power stings when it's on cooldown as well, but you know, that doesn't matter so much. It's about maintaining the ones you have. If you fail to add some more, it's not that big a deal. But with the amount of debuffs that we're applying, it's absolutely fine. Every combo is applying 5 because Longshot has increased ability accuracy. He applies more placebos, which means we have a guaranteed chance to apply the withers. The one other thing I'll say is don't try and miss his special 1. It cannot miss, and you will probably not really appreciate getting hit in the face with a special 1. He's probably not going to be in Pure of Heart in this fight. That's because we apply so many debuffs. Whenever he gets a non-damaging debuff applied to him, he will lose any of the good karma he has. That makes it very, very simple to keep him out of Pure of Heart. It's a very safe fight. And I've been going on about making sure your stings don't get taken, but you know, that was a very quick fight with not that many stings. You could lose them 3 or 4 times and not be in any danger of timing out. And that was supposed to be the end of my war, but our first option for this Mysterio didn't go well, and we had to reassess, and I put my hand up with Cassie to try and take it. We'd found out by then that Mysterio's damage reflect didn't happen if you had the tactic attacker and a few debuffs up. So, you know, he's poison immune, makes it a bit harder to keep up stings, but I thought I'd go for it. So we start off the fight by taking 1 hit into block and then immediately charging heavy. One thing that you should never really do with Cassie is start the fight by charging a heavy, especially with the AI being pretty passive at the moment. It ends up the AI just dashing back and letting all of your fuel expire. But we're going to counter this special by heavy charging. I note how much fuel it takes, and we don't do it again just because it does take quite a lot of fuel and doesn't get that many debuffs on him. So we're just going to do our normal cycle of applying those power stings, getting our taunt up so that we can keep on baiting out that special 1. You notice I don't really go too hard on the stings in this fight. That's usually a sign of me not being too confident in the fight, wanting to be a little safe, making sure I have my fuel, focusing on other stuff than layering the stings on. It also happens a lot when I am not, when I'm not able to apply poison, because that means you need to focus a little bit more on the stings themselves and not applying more. Without the poison, you can't slow them down, they expire a little bit quicker, and you just have to be that much more on the ball about actually baiting out specials. You'll notice I am actually getting a bit of damage back during this fight. I'm pretty sure there's a bug. It only happens when Mysterio is actually throwing the special or attacking me when the damage reflect expires. If you notice, that's, you know, just this one coming up now, we get a bit of damage reflect because he's attacking us. No matter, whenever else I'm attacking him, it doesn't happen. So, bit of an odd one, I've reported it as a bug. The fight's going pretty smooth. Most of the damage we've taken, about 19%, is from the damage reflect. So other than that, we're actually doing pretty well for health. without the little bug there, we would be in a very, very strong position. I'd be happy to take this fight anytime I needed to. It goes very, very safe. Mysterio is an absolute pain, just as he goes down. Mysterio is an absolute pain at the moment because he's a 7-star, often ranked 2s at this level, and his block penetration is crazy on base. If you add on the block pen stat focus, which you should be doing if you're placing him on defense, it's just really, really horrible. But that cleared out my wall. It was a very fun one. I'm really happy to be using Cassie as much as I am. I adore her. She is one of my favourite champs right now, and because Titania's getting banned so much, I'm going to be using her a lot, I guess. As of recording this, we are currently drawing. It is very, very close. We're in the final few fights each, so it's a bit of a nail-biter, and time is very even. So I'll update with some text on the screen at the moment when we find out the result. But with that said, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to be trying to get as many of these war vids done as I can. I'm enjoying doing them. But please leave any comments, feedback, like, share, all that jazz. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.